Hi, I'm Sid Dobrin. In this video, I'll be talking about the Road to a Strong Thesis feature. The Road to a Strong Thesis feature walks us through what might have been Quang Le's process for developing a strong thesis for his evaluative essay, Have You Been Bitten? Evaluating the Success of the Twilight Craze. Quang begins by acknowledging that his teacher has asked him to evaluate Twilight, but Quang recognizes that being asked to evaluate something is a pretty broad request. He asks, what can be evaluated about Twilight? Thinking about what he could evaluate about Twilight, he acknowledges that he could evaluate the books and films in the series using aesthetic literary criticism. But Quang realizes that taking a literary critical approach might be problematic, particularly since he would have to defend some claim as to whether or not Twilight should be called art or entertainment, and that literary criticism doesn't really address the idea of success. Thinking more about this, Quang recognizes that a lot of literary critics did not like the books and panned the books in reviews, yet the franchise has experienced phenomenal fan response. Quang realizes that any evaluative criteria he develops will necessarily have to distinguish between critical success and fan success, but that if he can distinguish between the two, he can show how fans responded to the series. This allows Quang to turn his attention to the criteria he would need to develop in order to evaluate fan response. Quang acknowledges that fan response could probably be measured in numbers of books sold, recognition and awards the books and films have received, what kinds of commercial success the movies have had, and even what the public's response to the film and books has been. With these criteria in mind, though, Quang cannot simply declare his thesis. Instead, his thesis emerges after he begins the evaluation of the books and films based on his criteria. This is an aspect of the Road to a Strong Thesis that I emphasize with students, that certain steps along the road are going to require work beyond just asking questions. In this case, for example, Quang has to initiate the evaluation to have data on which to base his claim. Once he sees the evidence of success from his criteria, Quang is then able to clearly state his thesis. Based on fan response, sales of books and films, and awards received, the Twilight series has been an exceptional success and has become one of the most influential franchises in recent young adult literature. With an essay like Quang's, I find it useful to walk students through this kind of process to help students see how writers think through their purposes and through their processes before arriving at a claim they wish to make within a situation. I also find it useful to ask students to actually write out their own map from the ideas they have until they get to a thesis. Keep in mind that the Road to a Strong Thesis feature can be taught independently, but it does seem to work best when teaching the Map Your Situation feature at the same time. Thanks for using Writing Situations, and thanks for watching.